work with the Microsoft Education Skills team, and my role is to help deliver the tools for your students, for the educators and the academics, and also the central IT teams to make best use of the Azure Skills, our curriculum certification. So I've got a short presentation. It's mainly demo, but I just want to really unpack our Azure curriculum and focusing on AI. So why is AI such a hot topic at the moment? And I think it sums it up in just the potential that AI allows. You know, you only have to go to the high street and you can see AI happening all the time. You know, whether or not that's in the checkouts where you're showing the product now to the camera rather than just weighing it or showing the barcode, or you know, you've been tracked when you drive your car and your number plate's being recognised. And this is fueling a greater demand for those jobs. And we at Microsoft are very conscious that there's not enough skilled people in the workplace to deliver the AI of the future. You know, and there's over 6.5 million jobs that are going to be generated just in AI alone. Okay, and I think one of the things that we're conscious of is let's give students the awareness of AI, not necessarily make them all AI experts, but if they're aware that AI can do certain things, it then becomes, we can democratize AI skills or AI awareness. You know, so not everybody wants to be a developer or is cut out to be a developer, but if they can see how AI can help solutions, they can then pull people together into teams and generate the solutions of the future. So we've got a bunch of fundamental curriculum available for educators, and one of them is the AI Fundamentals, and it's a fantastic product. You know, I've worked with the Azure Fundamentals for the last 6 months, and I've pivoted now to the AI Fundamentals, and I'm just getting stuck into it, and it's fantastic. And I'm going to show you some demos of the Jupyter notebooks that hold the content that you can then show and demonstrate to your students. And it's really easy for them to understand and actually get practical hands-on skills with the curriculum. And I think by helping your students go through that process of learning in a curated environment, you know, they'll become more confident in their own skills. You know, their employability chances will increase, because not only will they have got the degree from the university, they'll have got this added value, this addition, this awareness of AI. And when they go for that job interview, if they can explain what AI is and maybe how it could impact their world and with their skill set, that'll drive great success for them. That's, you know, we're seeing that now. We're seeing when people pass these industry recognized certifications, they're far more confident and they promote it. They shout about it on LinkedIn and social media, and actually that then gets noticed. So I mentioned that we've got a curriculum ready, and this has been wild. It's available for free via our Microsoft Learn website. Students can access this now. You as an educator can also access this for free, and we can support you. The deep dive content of the AI 900 curriculum is shown at the link at the bottom of the screen, but the summary is really, we've got a bunch of modules that really try and pull together the key areas, and we're seeing some of those areas unpacked this morning in the sessions. You know, with the chat bots and with the, you know, the language processing, the NLP, and each of those components is talked through and demonstrated, and then the students have exercises to do in a real Azure environment as part of this curriculum. You know, so it really does cover a lot of the AI components and at a fundamental level, so it's accessible to all. So I mentioned then Microsoft Learn, and it's worth listening to this very short video to see what Microsoft Learn is and how engaging it is for your students. And we use it as the one place where we can hold the curriculum, so you can direct your students to learn after you've explained the concepts, the reasons why it's such a big thing, why they need to learn certain elements. You can then send them off to learn to actually then run through the programmatic parts of the learning. So that's where we'll keep all the materials up to date. We'll keep the UI, as the UI changes in Azure, as we know it does, and as we add new features, we'll make sure that Learn is bang up to date. So you don't have to worry too much about keeping the content up to date. You can focus on how to land the topic and how to land the big picture and how to answer the questions that students might have about how it applies to their world. Let's have a quick listen.
As students, you're told the best way to find a career path is to follow your interests. What issues motivate you? What gives you hope? Who will inspire the next great discovery? Once you find where your path starts, we're here to help you cross the finish line. Microsoft Learn is a place for secondary school and higher education students to develop skills for the future, where you can gain a deeper understanding of AI or cloud computing and get hands-on with coding technologies. It's a place to gain real-world experience, prepare for future careers, and use your tech skills for social good. Because at Microsoft, we believe the power to change the world is in your hands. So, what are you waiting for? Find your path to making a difference on Microsoft Learn.
I really love that video, how it pulls the excitement of learning together. And students see this and they actually love it as well. And I've got a couple of links there. One is to Learn itself, and then the other one is to the area for students. And that's where they can then start creating paths and learning paths, and it records what they've done, it gamifies the learning, and I'll show you a quick demo in a second. And there's also an area for educators as well, and that's where I mentioned earlier that we give you this curriculum for free, and within the Learn for Educators portal, you can validate that you're an educator, and then you can access all of our materials, including slides, lesson preparation guides, data sheets, and even walk through videos of how to actually demonstrate some of the videos, some of the demos that we've got. So let me move on, and I want to demonstrate some of the AI resources available on Learn, and let's do it through the Microsoft Learn student view. So here we can see, and we expect, or we'd like students to actually register, or at least create a profile on the website, because then we can track, or they can also track their progress. Okay, so we can see here I've completed a number of modules on this profile. We can see in the top areas that they can learn from different topics that might be of interest to them. So at the moment, programming language. We've got the different learning paths and modules, and a learning path is a curation of similar modules related to one batch of learning, whereas a module might be 20 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour long of a specific topic. Let's take a look at the AI. So I'm going to browse all paths, and you'll see here that if I just clear that filter, we have nearly 2,000 different modules and learning paths available, and this keeps growing. We keep adding new content all the time. So if I type in AI, we can see, and click search, we can see there's over 500 AI topics that we've put into Learn for your students, or for any student really, to access. Reason why it's for anybody, this is our scale to the world piece, whereas what we want you to do is curate this and guide your students through the Learn journey. So you can access any of this material, and I'll mention another 3-letter acronym. You can pull this through using our LTI into your LMS or into Teams, where you can actually pull any of this content. Let's have a quick look at some of these contents. So I'm going to come back into this later, but let's look at the AI builder, for example. So we can see here it's 5 units, and it starts off with the model lifecycle, and we go through, and we can actually see the different components. And students, once they complete it, they earn points. So it's very gamified, and they love that idea. And you can track that by saying, well, look, show them the screen that you completed it. And there's some mini questions at the end of each section as well. Okay, so they learn it. You can pull this into your LMS if you want using our LTI, and then they go through that, and that's 20 minutes or so of self-paced learning. Let me go back to my slides quickly, because what I want to show you is more about the Azure curriculum in the AI curriculum in Azure. And within our AI 900, this is the Microsoft Azure AI Fundamentals, we have 5 main learning paths, and each of them, the content is stored in Microsoft Learn. As an educator, we'll give you the slides that you can use, we'll give you a trainer handbook, we'll give you all the information that you need to get up to speed with that information. But as for the students, they will actually consume this via either your LMS or via our Microsoft Learn website. And let's take a look at the computer vision. I'll just go into this now. So the instructions, so in effect you'll top and tail this, you'll explain what computer vision is, and then they'll actually go into Learn to do the practical side of things. So here we can see we've got a 2-hour module related to computer vision. We can see it's aimed at these different job roles, because we're very much focused on job roles now rather than just the technology. And one of these is student and cognitive services. If I take a look at the analyze images with computer vision service, we can see we've got an instruction, we've got getting started, we've got an exercise in the middle, which I'm going to drill down and show you that actually in Azure, and then there's a knowledge check at the end. Okay, so let's take a look. Here we can see an explanation of what we're talking about. So what is computer vision? What is cognitive services? And it talks through that the computer is looking for images, and it knows what certain types of images are. So it knows what buildings are and people are and animals are. It's been trained already with those. And later in the module, we'll actually start building our own training models. So look, we can see with this picture, it's detected that's a building and it's a tower, and this is the tutorial. This is the part where the student's learning what this is. And we can see that you can learn faces and such like. Let's go to the end and then move to the next unit, which is then actually a practical lab that the student will perform. And you'll see here that this requires a Microsoft Azure subscription, which the students will have because they're all students, and therefore they can use our Azure for Students benefit, which gives them $100 of Azure consumption over the year, and that's renewable every year that they're in education. So for example, to go through this whole exercise will probably only cost about $10 of credit, and that's provided as part of the Azure for Students benefit. And we'll see here, look, in a second, and I'm going to demonstrate this in a second, we actually use a Python environment that leverages Jupyter Notebooks. And for many of the computer scientists on the call, this is something that you're very familiar with. It's a great learning environment because it shows the student the instructions, the code, and then the output. And I'm going to jump into a demo and show you this quite quickly. So even a standalone student can then come here and actually access this material. Okay, I'll throw you through a couple of steps. They'll create an Azure Machine Learning workspace, a compute instance, and then actually download the files from GitHub. So if I jump over to my Azure portal, and I'm going to go into machine learning, and I've already started up my compute instance so I can actually connect to it, but you'll see it in a second. So I've already created my AI 900 Fundamentals workspace, and I'm then asked to launch the machine learning studio. So let's do that now, and that opens up in a brand new window. And this is our place where we can perform machine learning operations. And you'll see here that I've got one compute instance which I've created, and it's running, and we can see the status of this. And this in effect is our brain that we're going to be using to process those queries. Okay, so we can see it's running. We can see it's running on 2 cores and 14 gig of RAM, and that will probably cost no more than $10 a month to run. And part of the setup of this, we actually configured it to auto idle, go into an idle mode and shut down after about 30 minutes. So you're not going to have a student using all of their credit because they've left it running. It will stop itself. But let's look at the real meat of this now, because this is the notebook which is using really so the information from GitHub. And why we keep it in GitHub is because we want it to be refreshed on a regular basis, and that's a really nice way to do that, is by leaving in GitHub. We can update GitHub, and then whenever a student or an educator pulls that material, they'll be assured it's always bang up to date. So we can see the code here. It says, look, git clone and pull that information, and I've already done that. It will then create a AI Fundamentals folder within your machine learning space. And if we see here, we can see a bunch of Jupyter notebooks, and if we just take a look at one or two, they're all formatted nicely in Jupyter format. And we can scroll through, and actually, we can have the student actually build these out. I want to show you the computer vision analysis, because this is one that I like. It's one of the early ones that we actually get started with. So let me just make this in focus mode. So here we have the student read through the instruction. They can see what's happening. They then start creating exercises. They start actually performing the exercise. And one of them will be to build out a cognitive services resource in Azure. And we'll tell them what to create and how big and all the rest of it. And they'll then have a key and an endpoint. So if we now, and I've already copied mine into here, if we run this cell, it will actually confirm that it can access that and it's valid. So it says, look, we're now ready to use those cognitive services at this endpoint. We then need to install the Azure Cognitive Services code into the compute, into the brain in effect, so it knows what to do when we ask it to do things. And I've already done this as well. I'm going to get to stuff that I've not done in a second. So here, look, this is the next cell. So what this one's going to do is say, look, we're going to run the cell and get a description of the store cam1 JPEG file. So I'm going to click into the cell. Your students don't necessarily need to know the detail of the Python code here. You can explain it, you can unpack it if you want. It's fairly basic, but let's run it and see what happens. And here we can see it's deciphered that store cam1 JPEG is a woman holding a phone. Okay, and it's got a fairly, it's actually quite a good, isn't it? 37%. It's not a great percentage, out of 100, of course, but it could be a chocolate bar. But it's guessing that that's a phone, and that's what it's gone with. Now, this is where you can be a little bit more creative. So I've actually inputted one of my own pictures into here, and I'll show you how you do that if you want to. If you want to deviate, you can actually put your own branded. So let's run this, and we'll show you what it does. So let's run exactly the same cell again, but this time I've pulled through a picture of my son and Chewbacca. And it said, look, it's a boy standing next to a large cartoon character. Okay? So you can do that if you want. If I just unpack where that's stored, the data's all stored within this workspace. And if I look in the data, well, you can actually see it's actually concatenated the path from data vision. So if we go into data and then vision, we'll then see the Chewy or the store cam1 and 2 files there. So you could, if you want to, bring more life to this. And actually, you could have this. It could be your stretch project for the students. Is right now, if you're happy with this, go a little bit deeper. So we just cover the basics in the fundamentals, but you can go a little bit deeper if you want. So hopefully that was quite fun. And then obviously it then progresses and it builds on this. So it starts to analyze the image features. So if we look at this, it's now going to look at, well, I think in our vision services, we allow 87 different types of facial features. So let's see what we can pull from here. So again, what we have now is the same woman holding a phone, but now we're saying, well, what can you see? So you can see a person, a cell phone. It's guessed the age of the lady, and we've got the different tags available that it's seeing. It's seeing a smile on there. It's in a store or a shop. It's even got some ratings. And that is probably, you saw it only took 10, 15 minutes. So that's a very short lab that they're building out within Azure. They don't need to know that much Azure skills, and it's all very much curated. But you could expand that. You could add an extra, an extra cell if you want. You can unpack it a little bit more, and we build the skills up in that sort of fashion. So hopefully that was a useful demo. Let me minimize that and come back to my slide. And each of these are accompanied by and this is, you can see this, and this is the demo that I showed you. So when it comes to you as educators teaching this content, Microsoft can help you, and we can provide you with a welcome pack to help onboard the students so they become familiar with Azure and creating a student Azure for Students subscription. We put together a welcome pack which we can make available for you, and the training itself is probably about 20 hours, including those practical labs. Now, some of that will be self-paced learning from the student, and some of it will be curated by the educators. Probably about 50-50. So you'll explain what it is, you'll demonstrate it, you'll give them the big picture and why it's important and the nuances of it. But then the student will go away and actually assimilate that and actually use that. We have a certification, and it's the AI 900 certification, and this is our fundamentals range of certifications, which, if you're a Certiport test centre, these are accessible in the UK via your academic volume licensing. And that's a fantastic value add that you can offer your students, because we've seen, we ran a pilot with this curriculum, the Azure Fundamentals curriculum, in the early part of the year, and we saw so many of the students celebrating their success actually once they, and UCLan was part of that pilot, and some of the UCLan students were publishing their certificates. They were so grateful that they did this curriculum and managed to pass the exam despite COVID, and it was really a nice thing. So let's pivot a little bit now and think, well, okay, what about your students that already have AI or computer science skills, and they want to go a little bit further, or they want to help others. So one thing I'd like to call out is our Imagine Cup. Now, our Imagine Cup has been going for 19 years. It's one of the most successful student competitions in the world. And, over 19 years, we've had 2 million competitors. We've had, across 100 countries. And Claire Riley and I are really passionate about making this a success this year. We'd love more of our UK universities to actually promote the Imagine Cup, and let's have another UK winner. It's been a few years, and really we do really well in the UK, especially with Microsoft and entries with Imagine Cup. And it's been quiet for a couple of years, and we really want to restoke that fire and re-energize your students to enter a team of 1, 2 or 3 or more and enter the Imagine Cup. And I think one of the key things for when I say a team is not everybody is equally skilled. So we might have within a team that enters the Imagine Cup, might have someone who knows development, who knows marketing, who's got an idea. And that could be 3 individual people coming together. So rather than have individual teams of 1, we'd actually love to see people collaborating together and entering this competition. So please do circulate this. I'll make sure the slides are available to Chris later. And my last piece that I'd like to talk about is our Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador Program. This has been rebranded from our Microsoft Student Partner Program and relaunched and reinvigorated, and we've got a lot more benefits and a lot more potential in this scheme, and we love it. And what this is for is for students who like to share, who like to build communities, who like to collaborate, and who like to help other people. And they are an asset to your universities, but also we've seen how we can help them become even more, so they can build communities, they can teach other people. And we've had student ambassadors presenting on the world stage, even at Ignite and Build, and these are students in university, but because they're passionate about technology and, we'll mentor them, we'll help them, will put them in touch with other ambassadors across the world, it really adds something else to their CV. So very quickly, I'll just show very quickly the program benefits. They get all of these benefits depending on which pillar they advance to. So even at the most basic level, they're getting their own tenancy, they're getting their own domain, they're getting $150 of Azure credit to use as they want. And that is an amazing starter set of benefits. And then as they progress, because they've done, maybe 1 or 2 online events, or they've helped other people and they can validate that, they move to the beta. And we've got a gold student ambassador actually interning with us at the moment at Microsoft called Salman, and he's gone through these ranks in literally 1 year. And he's a credit to the program, and he often speaks at some of our events, and he spoke at Ignite and Build, and it was amazing to see. I've known the young man about 3 years. He's at Nottingham, and he's just gone from literally from alpha to gold. It's amazing. What do they get? They get all those benefits, but they also choose whether or not they want an online profile, and this then allows them to showcase what else they're doing. What they've done, what it's almost like if they want to become that hero that they really are, we'll give them the platform so that they can then showcase, they can show off their speaker engagements, their badges, their certifications that they've awarded, and also will help them with mentoring and much, much more. So please do promote the student ambassadors, and we see it as these all joined up. We all want to help students achieve more through our curriculum, through our programs, and through our competitions.